So I had a revelation recently, and if you stay to the end of this video, then you are a real one because it's a lot to unpack. But my revelation was about some of the friendships that I attracted and how they would treat me based on the self-concept I had. And one of the things I noticed was consistent across those connections was, and not just, friendships, even relationships, but they always looked like the savior or the helper or the one who could financially or materially do things for me. And not because I asked, but I think that a lot of that was due to their own childhood trauma of, having to grow up without certain provisions. So they became the provider. And, that doesn't mean that sometimes I didn't ask because, hey, if I needed help, I needed help. But I also believe that it became a sense of control in their identity. So they would purposely, surround themselves with people who they perceived they had more than so they could maintain a certain image. In many instances, though, I felt more like a charity case or a good gossip topic rather than, a friend. Especially when I would notice, like, whenever I would try to do things for them, it was like if I wanted to pay for something, they would give me such a hard time that I would almost have to do things in secret or like argue with them just so I wouldn't have to deal with, that kind of thing. And I used to brush it off and think, maybe it's just because they're used to being the one doing stuff all the time. But then it struck me after I, started really evaluating. I realized that they would react that way because it disrupted the narrative of them being some sort of savior to me. It interrupted the pattern that they got used to feeding off of. But here's the thing. I grew up in a long line of codependent family dynamics, so independence wasn't really modeled or encouraged. And it was really all survival mode. So the emotional needs of myself were often neglected or entangled with other people's needs. So you can imagine how that probably shaped my self-concept and relational blueprint growing up, especially when it came to establishing real friendships and healthy connections. So I learned to let people need me or be needed by them, which felt familiar and it felt emotionally safe. And that was even if it was unbalanced. Friendships and relationships became where someone took care of my needs, or they had to be the one in charge because it reflected a familiar structure. A lot of my perception around my worth was tied to how well I kept the peace, or I helped others, or I relied on others for identity. Being helped or rescued, it often felt like the only way to receive love or attention. And much of my struggle in life was that I was always finding myself in these positions where I needed help, even though I was also always trying to make a way and figure things out. It was like I could never really just get my feet on solid ground. And in the moments when I was in this energy of